Welcome to another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast for April the 12th. That is today, I believe, April 12th.
It is. Yes,
I have to double check myself, but big thanks to everybody that's tuning in. Of course, live on Facebook on the Whl Clark's Classic Grill and Bar Facebook page, the YXE Sports Podcast Facebook page, no YXE as well. And of course, we're on all the streaming audio versions wherever you get your podcasts as well. Matt Morrison with you. Ray Morrison is to my left, and tiny little blast of winter today. Nothing too crazy. No. It's basically already melted. But last week, you got a little poke in the arm too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, no, it's good. Got my my vaccine and everything is all good to go. So 300 cases on this April 12th in Saskatchewan. So, I know this can be a hotly discussed topic, but get your vaccine. It's just that simple, everybody. It's just, this is what the health professionals have been telling us. So yeah, I did. I'm on the wrong side of 50, so that's what happens, right? But soon we'll get everybody in, and this will be great. Yeah. Okay, what am I looking at? What am I looking at
for here? Everybody that's first of all, I want to say the things that we can do when Doyle's not around. But for everybody that's watching the live stream, the web version of this, of course, we do have the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leaf game on in the background. I'm a Leafs fan. You're a Hab fan. Yep. So the wonderful people here at Whl Clark's Classic Grill and Bar have this red light here. Yep. So every time that red light goes off and it flashes, that means that the Toronto Maple Leafs have scored, and they haven't scored yet, but they're saving it all for between 6 and 6:20 p.m.
Oh, is that right? Okay, yeah. So right now, and I know this is our drop date. Some people might be watching this or listening to this after, but right now it's 6:02 on April the 12th. We're in the first intermission.
And the Leafs have 3 shots.
The light is going to go off every time Toronto scores?
Yes.
And what is the score right now?
2-0 Montreal.
There you go.
The Leafs currently have 3 shots on goal. But we will talk about hockey.
This planning. Like, this is just amazing.
We will talk about some NHL stuff later on in the show. Of course, it was the trade deadline today, so we'll get to that. The Masters were this weekend, but it seems like the CFL is in the news yet again, and it's amazing to me because for a league that doesn't have a season or isn't currently having a season, and by not currently having a season, I mean they're not actively playing right now. There sure is a lot to talk about, and this was from Farhan Lalji. Of course, he's a TSN reporter based in Vancouver. It was an article that was done by 3 Down Nation, and the CFL has once again asked the federal government for financial assistance. There are no details in terms of what that dollar amount was, but if you remember last year, the CFL did the same thing. They asked the federal government for financial assistance. They didn't end up getting it, but what are your initial thoughts on the CFL doing this yet again for 2021?
Well, the last time that the Randy Ambrosie went in front of committee, remember we had Saskatoon Grasswood East MP Kevin Whl on, and it was pretty apparent, and there were lots of good questions. Now, I'm a Randy Ambrosie fan. I do like Randy Ambrosie. I really like his passion for the Canadian Football League, and again, I don't think it does the Canadian Football League any good to have a new commissioner once every 4 years. That's just not. When the NFL has had 4 in its history or 3, that's not where we want to go with the CFL. But every time someone gets disenchanted with a commissioner in this league, there seems to be a call to remove him. Granted, I didn't think Randy Ambrosie did that good of a job in that committee meeting a year ago when he just wasn't ready to face the questions that an MP like Kevin Whl had for him. So, I think it would serve I think it would serve the league well to have a better plan to get players across the border. And I also think that the other thing that will help is if they are better prepared in consort with the players. So when you go in front of the government, the federal government, you're going in as a team. Because Randy Ambrosie was scrambling. He was asked if it was a bailout or a loan he was looking for. And then he was asked why the players weren't in part of this conversation. And he just simply wasn't ready. So if it has to come down to the CFL asking to the federal government for money, which is not ideal, then that's what it's come down to. But just make sure that you're prepared.
No, and I agree. 4 out of the 6 provinces, again, this comes from Farhan, 4 out of 6 provinces have been granted approval to be able to play a CFL season. Okay. So we don't know which ones are which yet, but apparently 4 out of the 6 provinces have been approved a return to play protocol from that local government. And from what I understand from reading this article, once all 6 provinces do get approval to play, then they will take that information to the federal government, and then comes the decision on how to get players across the border and stuff like that. Now, you could make the argument that the NHL recently changed their quarantine from 14 days to 7 days for players crossing the border. So the CFL should be getting the same treatment.
Well,
right?
I don't know. You are talking about half the league, though.
Yeah.
You're talking about half the Canadian Football League players are imports, right?
Yep.
Non-Canadians or whatever they're calling them now. That's a little bit different than the NHL.
Yeah.
You know, that really is. And you think about how the NHL started to prep for their season. So the season that Tampa Bay won the Stanley Cup, they started prepping for that months before. Yeah. Players were in a bubble much before that season started, right?
For sure.
Again, I think it's probably, and this is, again, uncharted territory, right? We've never been through this. This is a once-in-a-century pandemic, and there is no playbook for it. But I think it's just simply going to come down to where we are at numbers-wise in the middle of May. Like in a month's time, we'll know, because generally training camps will start at the end of May. So let's think about the next 4 weeks. If the numbers stay where they are right now, I don't have a good feeling about an 18-game season. So then maybe you're looking at September and a 10-game season. But as we all know, in this ticket-driven league, it is imperative to get some sort of season on the field in 2021.
Well, and so that's the other thing, too. There's also rumors that the season could be pushed back, because I think they're planning to start in June. Right? Regular season, June or July. Yep. So there's rumors that could get pushed back. Now, one of the upsides to that, because I like to look at things in a positive light, one of the upsides to that, and this isn't my own, I read this opinion from somebody else, but I agree with it. One of the upsides to starting the season later is that allows more time for vaccines to get in people's arms, which then could allow for some fans, not necessarily 100%, but some fans to return to the stands. Because I think you have to have a season in 2021 if you're the Canadian Football League, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So what does that look like in an area like Toronto, where the top section's empty anyway? They don't sell it at BMO. They don't sell, there's some bad jokes here, but social distancing is probably not an issue with the Toronto Argos and their games. But what do you do? And then you start looking at the business plans of teams then. So what happens if, can it be profitable in Saskatchewan with, if your stadium holds 33, can you make a go of it on 15, 16,000? And is it worth getting on the field for? And that's some of the numbers that, people like Craig Reynolds and some of these owners are going to have to quite simply crunch to see if this makes any sense or not.
Jeremy has a comment on the Facebook live stream. He says, I'd rather they get the money from the XFL than the government and have taxpayers pay for a dying league. So it's interesting. Of course, there is that whole XFL. I was actually just reading an article just before we went live from Pro Football Talk, who is run by NBC Sports down in the States. But one of those articles was a CFL XFL merger could potentially having the two champions play one another. So the XFL champion, so they'd have their own.
So they play in their
championship.
Yeah, they play in their division until
it comes time for the finals. And then you'd have the winner of the CFL division and the winner of the XFL division play each other, and that would be your Grey Cup or whatever you want to call it. But I literally just read this just before we went on the air tonight, so I haven't had time to fully look at it. But that's one of the.
Bob Irving is a very respected journalist. He's the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he is a terrific human being and one of the best broadcasters in this country. And I thought it was interesting what he put out on Twitter yesterday, saying, memo to Randy Ambrosie, please don't let MLSE, who don't give a rip about the history and tradition and the cultural significance of the CFL, push you into an ill-advised collaboration with a league that doesn't even exist yet. So that's more discussion about the XFL, CFL, and the traditionalists and purists in Canada think that there's far more to lose than gain by. And I think next week our guest Chris Cuthbert might have some thoughts on that. But I think he kind of suggested that, you got to be careful that a deal like that with the XFL isn't a deal with the devil. Right?
Yes.
Are you giving up Are you giving up 3-down football? Are you
Yep.
giving up 110-yard fields? Are you giving up, run backs? There's a lot to be said for that. But the XFL, they might not have a league, they might not have a television deal, they might not have teams in place, but they do have money.
Yeah.
The CFL has teams in place, they have a TV deal, they don't have money.
Surely you could find a way to merge the two if that's what you wanted to do, and still keep the CFL 3-down 110-yard, right? I don't know. I just don't think that it could be that hard, but what do I know? We could spend hours and hours talking about this whole CFL and XFL thing, but that's where we stand with the CFL. So they have gone back to the feds to, ask for federal assistance again for 2021. So whether it happens or not is to be determined. The Masters, on a much more happier note, the Masters were this weekend, and Hideki Matsuyama wins the green jacket, the first Japanese-born player to win the Masters. He was terrific all weekend.
Yeah, he was. And actually, got interesting yesterday because he entered the day with a 4-shot lead and won it by 1 stroke. So there was some heat on him, but he was clutch when he needed to be. And on the back 9, he actually put one in the water. And still managed to come away with a win. What's interesting about this, of course, the upcoming Olympics are in Japan, and there were some suggestions on the CBS broadcast that Matsuyama might light the torch.
Oh,
that's how big this Masters win is in Japan, in a country that has 9 million people. So that's huge. I mean, that was great to watch. And then Corey Connors with the big ace on Saturday. That was really good too. So
he finished 6 strokes back of Matsuyama as well. So he didn't even finish all that bad, really, right?
Yeah,
he finished in the top 10, and
he finished tied for 8th.
A hole in one to boot.
And the Connor story was really interesting because he's from Listowel, Ontario, and he actually last year was also in the top 10.
Yeah,
he finished in the top 10 as well. So that was a great showing. And the other comment I want to make is our Saskatchewanian friend Graham Dillette with his work on TSN.
He was terrific.
He was fantastic, wasn't he? Wasn't he great? I love the one joke he told. He said Saturday night after Connors hit his hole-in-one, he said, "Hey, I should be having a case of beer brought to my rental home. That's part of the deal when you hit a hole-in-one." So Graham, he was able to lighten it up, and then he got a great picture with Mike Weir. And Mike Weir, of course, is the 2003 champion of the Masters. He won it in 2003, the year before Tiger put the green jacket on him. So Graham Dillette got his picture taken with Mike Weir, and he had his arm around him. He said, "This is probably my one chance to touch the green jacket." Yeah. So, he was really good. I thought his analysis was with Bob Weeks was fantastic.
No,
so
I agree.
That was good. That was really good to watch.
So Saskatchewan was still well represented in the Masters. I see a little green. See a little red light.
Oh, is that right?
So that means that the Toronto Maple Leafs must have scored.
Cut the lead
to 1. So that's perfect. We will talk, like I said, about hockey as well. One more thing on that golf note, more locally, the golf courses, the city-run golf courses in Saskatoon are set to open on April 16th, which is this upcoming Friday.
Yeah.
The driving ranges are open as of now, and I believe, Ian, we have a picture.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to throw that tweet up from the city of Saskatoon, Ian, but we were talking a little bit about golf, and just it's interesting because a lot of people in and around Saskatoon, they have their Masters pools, and that's when they kind of get out and start swinging on the driving ranges, and those opened last week. So there it is. This is the April 12th tweet saying that come April the 16th, you can book a holiday at Wildwood or Silverwood. So that was really nice to see because especially with the weather that we got and looking ahead to that Friday, the 16th, I saw one forecast that says 14 and another that says 16. So that should be pretty good to get out and, after such a long year, just another long winter, just an opportunity to get out and be safe, but be outdoors would be great.
Well, and golf is the perfect social distance sport, and not even from, person-wise one another, but from myself to my golf ball is incredibly socially distanced. So
so that's good.
One of the most frustrating sports ever. I was actually having this discussion with my roommate today, and he said golf's a funny game because you potentially get your $80 shirt hooked on a tree branch when you're going into the woods to find your $2 golf ball.
That's right.
So But so yeah, looking forward to another season of golf. And of course, the Masters were this past weekend as well. Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar is your #1 stop for Saskatoon Blades action this year. We'll talk about the Blades in a little bit. They are red hot, but make sure to come on down for every single Saskatoon Blades game. Food and drink specials are available when the Blades play. And of course, they got the Blades games on the big screen as well at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar on the corner of Circle and Idlewild in Saskatoon. We will talk about the Blades. We will talk about the NHL, but the curling, the Men's World Curling Championships were held in Calgary in a bubble. Somehow, some cases of COVID still got into the bubble.
Yep.
But Sweden was crowned the champion. And I know I was, just busy doing this, that, and whatever this weekend. So you kept up with the curling a little more than I did.
Yeah, well, after the Canadian team lost to Scotland, it's kind of too bad for an event that was held in Canada, because once Canada was eliminated, what happened was the event lost a lot of momentum. Because that was Friday. There were no games Saturday, and that meant a 5-game Sunday to kind of crown a champion. And so that's just, one of the things that they had to do. And then on Sunday, the other thing that players, they didn't have to wear masks while they played until the Sunday. And then the Sunday, the change was made. But yeah, it was Sweden over Scotland 10-5. Nicholas Eden picks up his third title as Sweden wins it again. So for Nicholas Eden, that was big, because he's been there so many times, and you kind of knew that he was, once Canada was out, you kind of knew that maybe he was going to be favored, just because there was no home ice advantage for the Canadian team, really, with no one in the stands. So that is another big win for Sweden for sure.
The only downside to the Blades' hot start or hot play in the bubble is that we can't go to the SaskTel Center and enjoy them just rolling over teams, because they are 12-2-2 this year. They beat Brandon 3-2 yesterday, and they beat Moose Jaw 4-2 on Saturday. So they sit atop the East Division bubble with 26 points. Brandon is in second with 24 points, but it's obviously good for the players, good for head coach Mitch Love and GM Colin Priestner, but it's a shame that we can't actually watch this team live at the SaskTel Center.
And Tristan Robbins was named the Whl Player of the Week today, 9 points in 4 games. And Nolan Mayer was just unbelievable in this game against the Brandon Wheat Kings. So the Blades win it by a count of 3-2. They scored a power play goal late in the first. Krinkovic scored. And then in the second, Chase Waters. Actually, I can't remember that order, whether it was Waters first or Krinkovic, but they scored 2 goals close together, late first, early second, both in the power play. But Nolan Meyer, where did I have his save statistics here? He was absolutely phenomenal, and he was the first star of the game with 42 stops in net for the Saskatoon Blades in that win. So, Saskatoon 12-2-2, Brandon 11-3-2 now with 7-8 games to go, and the Blades will take on Swift Current on Wednesday in the bubble.
What about like an East Division playoff per se?
Yeah, I'm okay with it if everybody's staying safe. I mean,
like you stay in the bubble, right? And then you just have a little playoff,
If everybody's, I mean, when you're talking about these athletes at this age, it comes down to obviously player safety, but it comes down to, what did you agree to with regards to schooling, right? What, education and that sort of thing. Have you scheduled more time that you can get a playoff in? And if you have, then, and everybody's staying safe, then why not? I mean, you got to think about how tough this is for these young players, age 16 to 20, that just aren't able to have a regular season and are just getting their opportunity. And such a big thrill to play in the Western Hockey League under these circumstances isn't exactly what they envisioned. But, if there was some sort of East Division playoff, I'd be okay with that, as long as, the cases aren't spiking like through the Vancouver Canucks, what they have going right now. Or, I think which Western Division team had basically suspended was it
Kelowna?
Was it Kelowna? Yeah. And
should make sure that that's actually accurate before we go making accusations. But you're right. I do think that it was Kelowna.
You got to be very careful of that, right?
But I do think it was Kelowna that suspended activities. There's a team in the the Alberta division, the Central division as they call it, that had to suspend some play too. So some games had to get shuffled around.
Breaks out near the end of these games, then I would say no.
Yeah.
Right. Don't get everybody out safe and that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I know that the Alberta division is still traveling from city to city, right? Whereas in the East Division, they're not. So that's always good as well to
it was Waters late first and then Krinkovic early second. The power play was.
So, but yeah, Saskatoon Blades 12-2-2. So hopefully they can keep it up as the 24-game bubble winds down in Regina. Switching to the National Hockey League, and the NHL trade deadline was today. We'll get to that in a second, but Jack Campbell, Leafs goalie, he's playing behind us. He's already led in 2 goals tonight, but I digress. Set a NHL record over the weekend with an 11-0 start.
Isn't that something?
So we'll have to get Chris Cuthbert's thoughts on that, because he's called a lot of Campbell's games.
You realize that he has only played, he's already in the record books, and Jack Campbell has only played in 75 NHL games. And what's interesting about Jack Campbell is his first NHL game was with Dallas back in 2013-14. He didn't play again in the NHL until 16-17 with the LA Kings. I mean, he fought that hard to get back to the National Hockey League for almost 3 full seasons before he got back into it. He's a Michigan product, and when you watch him being interviewed, it is just such a thing of beauty, because he comes across as just so humble, such a nice guy, and like everybody from Austin Matthews on down says, it's really tough not to cheer for a guy like that. And then he gets into the NHL record books with 11 straight wins, and the Leafs record books at least with 11 straight wins. So it is pretty remarkable to watch that story unfold for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And has pointed out, I'm a Habs guy, but there's just so much to like about a guy like Jack Campbell that it is pretty awesome to watch.
I didn't get a chance to see it on Saturday afternoon, but you did, and from all accounts, the Colby Cave tribute was absolutely fantastic.
Well, yeah. It's interesting that we were talking about how the Calgary Flames were struggling.
Yeah.
Right. But they played Edmonton on Saturday.
Yeah.
And they beat Edmonton by a count of 5-0. And one of the things that was being talked about from Connor McDavid is, I don't know why the NHL would have us play the night of after that tribute to Colby Cave. It was... your mom actually turned it on, and that's when I joined in. And there was just so much there. His mom, Jennifer, talking about, how when Colby Cave was a little guy, the Halloween pumpkin with the handles, that turned into the helmet. And that's where the dream of the NHL started, right? When he was a toddler, he just wasn't going to be denied. When Jennifer talked about how happy they were when Mark Lamb and the Swift Current Broncos showed faith in him, because from North Battleford to Swift Current, that was such an easy drive to make to watch him play compared to where else he could have been in the Western Hockey League. But when his wife, Emily, they were only married for 9 months before a disease took Colby Cave, when he died in hospital in Toronto. And, for Emily to get through that, I mean, one of the things she said was, if I had known that I only had 9 months with you to be married, I would have run down the aisle faster.
Yeah.
I mean, just unbelievable stuff. And to talk about the respect that a guy like he had, David Backes also spoke in this tribute on a video. And he talked about the sheer joy of Colby Cave being bumped up to a line with Patrice Bergeron and scoring his first NHL goal. Right. He said, and there just wasn't anybody that was not happy for the guy. And David Backes and Colby Cave, they really shared a faith-based friendship, which was really, really awesome. So there were just so many things about that tribute. And again, you get emotional. And I'll be honest, I don't know the Cave family. I've never met them, but just to watch that was just, there was so much about that really stirred inside you. So to see that tribute, the way it played out in Edmonton, it was really well done when you consider the challenges of a pandemic and not being able to gather for celebrations of life like we are kind of used to. That one was just so well done. And the family, whether it be Emily or Jennifer or, just so brave, just unbelievable. Yeah. 16
trades today in the NHL for the NHL trade deadline, which again was today. And 16 trades, not bad considering that they're playing in a COVID year. But a lot of the big moves happened over the weekend. Yep. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquired Blue Jackets captain Nick Foligno.
Yep.
For they gave up a first rounder, and they had to give us some fourth rounders. I'm trying to talk normally, but
you know what's interesting about that from Toronto's perspective too is so you bring in Foligno and that's good. But the other thing that kind of flew under the radar because it happened last week with the Toronto Maple Leafs was the acquisition of Riley Nash, and everybody's kind of wondering, why do you need more fourth line depth on this team? I mean, but
why not?
Why not? Exactly. That's not a bad move. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs at all, you got the cap space, you can make things happen, and things are going your way this year. We were just talking about Jack Campbell, how things are going their way, and Austin Matthews is living up to the billing. He's got the hot hand offensively, but that move, while many aren't talking about it now that Foligno's there, but that kind of kicked off things for Toronto, and I really thought that was interesting.
They went out and got backup goalie David Riddick from the Calgary Flames late last night too. So that means that Frederik Andersen is probably out for the foreseeable future for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But, I think they only have 2 or 3 draft choices in the 2021 NHL entry draft. They don't have a first rounder, but it's very clear that they're going for it. And
there we go.
They just tied up the game. So
there you go.
That makes sense there too. But yeah, I mean, Toronto's going for it this year, and why not?
Well, they're all in, right? I mean, it is interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to watch them at Edmonton, and I don't think we've heard the last of the Edmonton Oilers this season either, because they're starting to get some things really good that are happening. So, you think about this Canadian division, and you think about the highly touted players of Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. Imagine that in a North Division final.
Yeah,
for the chance to move on, right? That would be pretty incredible. So they are living up to their expectations for sure.
Calgary also dealt Sam Bennett to the Florida Panthers, who the Florida Panthers look to be kind of gearing up for maybe a little bit of a run too. They made lots of acquisitions close to the trade deadline, and Sam Bennett's interesting in Calgary. He originally requested a trade, and then Sutter got there, and he was like, "No, I don't want to be traded," and he still ended up getting traded. So, and then the other big one was Taylor Hall going from Buffalo to Boston,
along with the former Edmonton Oil King Curtis Lazar.
Yeah. So if you're Curtis Lazar, you got to be just thrilled.
Absolutely.
You get thrown in this package with Taylor Hall to head from Buffalo,
out of Buffalo
to Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
A cup contender. They're a cup contender every single year.
I'm not sure Anders Bjork is as happy. Yeah, but because he goes the other way from Boston to Buffalo. But that team is. That team, they are
also, it's not a normal season when Nick Foligno fetches more of a return than Taylor Hall.
Right. Yeah. Right. No. Yeah. Things are just so different right now. I mean, things are just so out of whack. It's just a different world right now with this pandemic. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
But
that's good.
That's interesting. Yep. So that's the latest sports happenings for the past week since we last talked to you.
And Elsa Bugtog, New Brunswick, they won Kraft Hockeyville. Lumsden still gets $25,000, but Elsie Pugdog, the First Nation.
Yep.
And I believe this is about an hour north of Moncton.
Okay.
Is where this First Nation is. Their rink burned down not too long ago. So they get the $250,000. So I'm assuming that if they play an NHL exhibition game in New Brunswick as part of this, it would probably be played in Moncton or somewhere close to that.
Yep.
And the other note is because of the Dante Wright shooting in Minneapolis.
The games.
Blues, the Minnesota Wild, they canceled or postponed their game against the St. Louis Blues. It's just
so did the Timberwolves. I can't remember who the Timberwolves of the NBA were playing, but they canceled their game too. So some more
tough time.
Yeah, stuff going on in the States. So
so where are we at here?
We're at 2-2.
2-2.
Yeah. So, and that's really all you need to know. I mean, it's just down here from the.
We've seen the lights come on twice. That's probably enough.
Next
week, who's on?
Chris Cuthbert will be on next week. It'll be Chris Cuthbert, the best.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. The number one play-by-play man. Well, I was going to say that Canada has ever seen. He will disagree with that, but
you're not wrong.
A highly regarded, thank you, a highly regarded play-by-play guy.
We think he's working this game for Sportsnet. Actually, so he's busy tonight, but next Monday, Chris will join us. And we'll talk. He can talk unplugged now about football, and we can also talk to him about the National Hockey League as we're getting closer to this playoff push too.
Chris Cuthbert, of course, was the man behind the microphone when Sidney Crosby scored the golden goal in 2010. So we'll ask him about that, what that experience was like as well. So next week, Chris Cuthbert, it'll be huge. It'll be awesome. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, stay safe.